Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Holtzman Schultz channel. First off, I'd like to apologize for the long absence. I was forced to move out of various reasons, so I was busy for the last few months getting everything relocated and situated, and so I didn't have a whole lot of time to do a lot of content, so my apologies for that. Well, today we're going to be looking at a wood project and kind of go in the direction that the name of the channel implies. So the reason we're doing this thing today is my brother is a chemical analyst for a large cosmetics firm, and he does little titration experiments on occasion, and so he's got this little shaker doohickey, which takes a little small test tube here, and you press it down into there, and it turns this thing on, and it shakes the contents of the vial here. And so we've got about 2 millimeters of travel, and he wanted to set this up to where we just clamp it all down. And he's got this little hold down clamp. I made the holder for it already. It's just a standard doohickey here, and this is thought to push the test tube into the divot here. The divot, of course, has the switch contained in it. We'll see that a little later. And so some of the substances he has to agitate take a while to mix, and they're, I don't want to say hydrophobic, but they are rather resistant to mixing. So he doesn't have the luxury of sitting there for hours on end with his finger on the top of this thing waiting for it to mix up. And some of the concoctions that he has to do, sometimes they take a little while, and so after about 2 minutes you start getting tired of it all. And he demonstrated the thing for me, and it's like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. So he kind of came up with this concept of this little gizmo here, and so now we're going to go ahead and make a base for it. We're going to make a base plate where this thing sits in there with all his little tootsies and can't get away. So let's get after it. So as you can see, I already got one hole done here, but it's a little on the small side, and so we're going to go ahead and just scoot over one more, cut this off, and just chuck it in the chipper later. But we're going to go ahead and do another run here and see how this turns out. Hopefully, we need it just a smidge bigger than the diameter of the agitator, because it won't. This should almost fit, but just looking at it, I can see it's just going to be a little bit too tight. So let's now I should really use a bit that's closer to the little tab there, or tit, whatever you want to call it, here on the end of this gizmo. But I was having a hard time getting that in and out of there, so I went with a slightly bigger bit so that it seats a little more. So anyway, this thing here, let's give her a rip. Now, well, I'll bring the camera around here a little bit later and show you guys the features of this critter so you guys can kind of see what it's all about. Like any old router, this thing is quite loud. So, and as you can see here with the slop that's in the hole here, we don't get a perfectly round hole, but let's see if it'll work. Yeah, that should do. So now the question is, how do you get all this out? There's a lot of different ways you can go on this. You can either just go smaller on the diameter. Unfortunately, this thing won't do much of a smaller diameter. Now, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be stiff and not be able to swivel, or if it's supposed to. Couldn't tell you. But anyway, I think it's supposed to be, you know, stiff to where it doesn't turn. But the other thing you can do is just route it out with the router, and I think that's probably what I'm going to do, although I'm a little loath doing that. I think what I'm going to try and do first is get a wood chisel and chisel this stuff out a little bit, and then maybe come in with the router later. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way is so that we can demonstrate proof of concept, one, and then two, show folks that, you know, not everybody has access to a bridgeport. Otherwise, I'd have just chucked this thing up on the bridgeport and done it over there and got a lot more precision out of it, because then I could take my boring head and made the big hole and then just plane it all out as it, you know, goes out from the center, and you know, make the hole that way. But not everybody has access to a bridgeport and boring heads and all that good jazz, so I wanted to, you know, give folks a demonstration on how you can do this stuff without all these fancy machine shop tools. So let's start off with trying to take some of this material out. As you can see, this is going to be a tedious job, so let me pause the camera here for a little while and bring you guys back when this is nearing completion. So as you can see, we got this all scraped down. There's still a little bit of residue there, but that's just moxnix. It's just, you know, fiber residue from the previous layer. I took it down as far as I wanted to, or dared to, I should say, to get this all nice and flat inside. So this is great, good enough anyway. And so now we got to make little pockets for the tootsies here. So what I did is I took a Sharpie and put some ink on them, and then you can see I just stuck it in there. I wanted to get a proof of concept to see if it worked, so I made several attempts of it, where I just started out with 2 opposing, and I thought, well, let's try it with all 6, and I stuck it in there, and sure enough, it worked pretty good. So now that we got our little Tootsie holes marked out, going to take an awl. I don't have an awl. I got this scratcher here, or whatever you want to call it, marking tool, and I'm going to mark a center in one of them. Get it as centered as we can, and then take a compass. Let me try to get this in frame and set the distance on center here as close as we can. See, I'm a little off here. Okay, and so we're going to start at our beginning hole here and mark where the hole is, right here. So that should give us, that doesn't look right. It looks a little off center. But then again, these are drawn by hand, so they may not be totally accurate. So then we'll get the next one, which is going to be across here. So there we go. Oops, stay here. So then we just poke it in there, poke it in there. You can actually scratch this. And then we'll go across this. Oops, get in frame here, dummy. So then we'll go across here. There we go. And then if all measurements are correct, we should have, when we reset and go back to the center hole here, the same distance here to here, and we do, and the same distance here to here, and we do. So that is how you space that. Now we can give this a little punch here so that our little tip on the end of the Forstner bit has a starting hole. When this edge here, when this cutting edge touches the wood, that's when you stop. That's when you're up to it. So let's bring it up until it touches. So now I'm touching, and now I can bring it up another 4 millimeters, and then I'm set. So it's important that you find center, and you got to do that without the machine running, otherwise you're going to have a bigger hole, or your thing is going to be off by the skosh, and then you're going to be So with all our holes drilled out, let's go ahead and stick this guy in here. See how it works. Tell there's some resistance on the edges of the holes, but it's in there. So now we just need to figure out how much wiggle room we got here. So we got our little depth gauge thingy here. So we're gonna run the sled up here all the way. Now we're gonna run this down until she touches. Sure you are. So this is where it kind of gets a little tricky. I'm not sure how you would measure something like that with any kind of other tool. There we go. So there we're at 2 millimeters. Should be clicking about now. Clicked a long time ago. Why didn't we not hear it? Now what you can do too is, now that I kind of think about it and ran this thing all the way up, is you can run it up some kind of depth stop with another and then just push down on it and check the gap. And we've got about 1 millimeter. So normally I'd be doing this step with a brad point bit, but being how this again is a tutorial more or less for folks that are forced to use whatever they have. I'm just going to use a regular spiral bit and drill these holes. These are 3 millimeter diameter wood screws, but we're going to drill a 3.5 millimeter hole so it goes clean through the plywood and into the board that we're going to screw to it. And in the board that gets mounted on here, we're just going to go ahead and drill regular holes into the material so that it doesn't split. Hardwood, even with these SPAX screws, sometimes will split depending on the circumstances. So anyway, let's just drill a hole here. Should be true. Yep. It works! Now this can be adjusted up and down too, so as it goes down you can see it works a little harder, so it's probably going to just need a little adjustment. But other than that, I'd say we got a wiener. Well folks, that's a wrap for today's little project. I hope you were able to glean a little bit of useful information, mainly on the dividing end of things, out of today's little video. I added a few more little extras here, just a couple of holes with a Forstner bit to kind of put these little test tubes in here so that there's a place for them so they don't go skittering across the table or getting lost or falling on the floor and getting stepped on and broke and whatnot. So there's 3 holes here, so I'm sure my brother can scare up a couple more if he needs them. But anyway. So if you have any more thoughts, comments, critiques, suggestions, or questions, by all means, put them in the comment section below. And as you know, I always read the comments. I may not answer them all, but I definitely read them all. And if there's anything that you want to know more about today's subject, by all means, fire away. So with that, hope to see you all again soon in the next video.